The examiner loves, loves, loves when students reference Freud's psychoanalytic theory, and honestly, it's such an easy way to boost your grade. So after this video, you're gonna know exactly how to utilize it in your essays. So firstly, who is Freud? So Freud was a neurologist who founded the idea of psychoanalysis. So psychoanalysis is like the analysis of somebody's mind and their subconscious. So the bit of your brain that isn't conscious, isn't the part that thinks, but the subconscious brain. And this emerged in the Victorian era in about the 1920s. Although Stevenson's novella was written in the 1880s, it still largely influenced how people viewed the novella and how, of course, it impacted society later on. So the psychoanalytic theory was this. Freud broke down the brain into 3 different parts: the id, the ego, and the superego. So the id was the irrepressible instincts of man. It's like our animal instincts. If it was believed that we were evolved from apes, which of course was Darwin's theory of evolution, the id represents that part of it. So maybe these sexual desires, these impulses, these urges, that is the id. Then we have the ego. So the ego is in the middle. The ego tries to balance the id's desires and the superego's desires. So it's almost like the middle man. Imagine like visually when somebody has like a devil and an angel on their shoulder, we could see the ego is like the person in the middle, the id is the devil, and the superego is the angel. And that takes us nicely on to the superego, and the superego is the part of the brain that knows about morality, knows right from wrong, knows about social conditioning. What I mean by that is like what society deems to be right or wrong. So they're the 3 parts: the id, the ego, and the superego. That is what we call the Freudian psychoanalytic theory. So when you're referencing it, you can talk about Freud's psychoanalytic theory of the id, the ego, and the superego. And now you must be thinking, okay, how does this link? So like I mentioned, this was founded in the 1920s, Jekyll and Hyde was the 1880s, but we can still look at it through a Freudian lens. So when we're being critical about it, we can say like, through a Freudian lens, it could be interpreted that, because it's still in the Victorian era, so it's still the same time period. The first way that we could link this is we could see that, of course, Hyde represents the id. He represents this irrepressible desire. We see particularly this very animalistic presentation of Hyde, so that is very fitting with the id. And then we could see Jekyll as the superego, because of course he knows right from wrong, he knows about morality, he knows about social conditioning. Think about the Victorian expectations to be a quintessential Victorian gentleman, to be moral, to have all of these expectations placed upon him. He is very aware of them. So Hyde is the id, Jekyll is the superego. The second way we could actually link it, and I think this way is just that bit more critical, is we could link again, Hyde being the id, so he is the animalistic part of man. We can see that because he's very barbaric in the way that he is, especially in his animalistic presentation where he like tramples calmly over a young girl. And then we can actually see that Jekyll could be the ego. So he could be the mediator in the middle between Utterson. We could see Utterson to be the superego. So we could almost see Utterson to be the superego because he's trying to hold Hyde accountable, he's trying to be moral, he's trying to be a moral Victorian man. And then of course, Jekyll is trying to mediate, so almost weigh up Hyde, the id's desires, but also the superego's, Utterson's desires. Because Utterson wants him to be a moral Victorian gentleman, whereas Hyde wants to indulge in these barbaric desires. So when referencing Jekyll and Hyde, we can talk about it through a Freudian lens. So in your essays and in your writing, you could say like through a Freudian lens, or in terms of Freud's psychoanalytic theory, we can see that Hyde represents it, the id, So that is the way that you can link it to Freud's psychoanalytic theory. It is honestly such a game changer for your essays. If you want to see this more critically done, go and check out the Light Up Hub, because we talk about Freudian psychoanalytic theory, we talk about Darwinism, and all grade 9 analysis that you can utilize in your essays just to take you to that absolute next level. So you can join thousands of students who have been doing this already and who've had incredible success. There's no reason why you can't do that too. So make sure you subscribe to the channel, guys, because it helps the channel more than you know. And please share this to any of your friends because these videos are completely free and we want to help as many people as we possibly can. I'll see you in the next video. Bye.